Have you ever wondered why we so often feel trapped by expectations and rules that seem to stifle our true nature? It's as if every day we need to tame our desires to fit into society's standards, whether at work, on social media, or even in our relationships. Today, we'll explore this idea from a perspective inspired by Friedrich Nietzsche, who claimed that by moving away from our deepest instincts, man has turned into a sick animal. Instead of living with the natural energy of a wild being, we end up becoming domesticated creatures, far from what we could be in our fullness. Before we begin, I would appreciate it if you like this video. You can help me continue to spread these wisdom lessons. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. And don't forget to comment your thoughts about the topic we are discussing. Think of simple everyday moments when you swallow your anger at work, when you pretend to agree with someone just to keep up appearances, or when you remain silent in a relationship for fear of judgment. This constant suppression generates an internal discomfort that, according to Nietzsche, is the result of turning our impulses inward, transforming them into anguish and self-censorship. In Thus Spoke Zarathustra, Nietzsche states that society domesticates the wolf into a dog, and man is the most domesticated of all animals. With this, Nietzsche wants to alert us to the fact that we have stopped being strong wolves connected to our instincts to assume the role of domesticated dogs, subservient to social rules, norms of conduct, and standards of success that do not always make sense to us. Nietzsche did not advocate that we become irrational beasts, but he questioned whether we were paying too high a price for the peace that living in society promises us. In Twilight of the Idols, for example, he goes so far as to compare human domestication to what happens to animals in zoos. They survive, but they become pale, weak, and full of fear. To call the taming of an animal its improvement is, to our ears, almost a joke. Whoever knows what goes on in menageries doubts that the beasts in them are improved. They are weakened, they are made less harmful. They become sickly beasts through the depressive emotion of fear, through pain, through injuries, through hunger. It is no different with the tamed human. Consider the work environment. You hold back urges to disagree with an unfair order so as not to seem rebellious or difficult to deal with. At a family dinner, you feel the need to agree with certain opinions, even if deep down you totally disagree, just to avoid conflict. Then, on social media, there is the pressure to show a perfect life, hiding frustrations and insecurities. All this effort to suppress what you really feel doesn't disappear. It turns into tension, guilt, anxiety, or even uncontrollable outbursts at inopportune moments. This is the core of what Nietzsche calls bad conscience, the pain of having powerful instincts that find no outlet because society insists on labeling them as shameful or unacceptable. But there is a way to reclaim our vitality. In Human, All Too Human, Nietzsche mentions the mythological figure of Circe, the sorceress who turned men into animals. For him, this story illustrates our return to our instinctive roots. When we face the truth about our nature, it doesn't mean we should abandon all form of civilization, but rather regain confidence in our body and in our impulses. The ancient Greeks knew this very well when they channeled their passions into festivals full of music, dance, and tragedy. They didn't hide that we have a dark side, but they converted it into art and collective catharsis. Today, we do not have such overt Dionysian events, but we can create our own spaces for expression. A sport that helps us vent adrenaline, a painting or writing that pours out our emotions, or even a dance without fear of missing a step. Think of how many times you have stifled your desires to fit into patterns. This war that you wage with yourself, society has been waging against morality for centuries. Nietzsche says, "Man, who was forced into an oppressive narrowness and regularity of custom, impatiently lacerated himself, persecuted himself, gnawed at himself, grew upset and did himself harm." Have you ever been through something similar? Have you ever felt that you needed to turn off parts of yourself to be accepted? Nietzsche would invite us to ask this question, to see how far we are submerged in a morality that binds us. Of course, this doesn't mean completely rejecting civilization or laws. Nietzsche himself recognizes that social organization brings stability. The question is to realize the size of the sacrifice we make when we stop living authentically. Perhaps the constant exhaustion and the feeling of emptiness that many carry comes precisely from this refusal to accept our instinctive part. Maybe the solution is to balance the sides, maintain a functional social structure, but don't lose the flame of the wolf that exists in each of us. And where to start? Observe when that urge to speak, to oppose, to express your desire arises. but you keep quiet. Question whether you are just being a domesticated dog or if you can at least give voice to your will in a conscious and respectful way. It can be something small, like stopping pretending to agree with a friend when you actually think differently. Over time, creating these spaces of authenticity can be invigorating. If you've watched until the end, I'm sure you'll also enjoy my last video that is appearing on your screen now. See you next time.